Before you stands a simple truth that has shaped every great life. Happiness is not something you stumble upon. It is something you create. Every day you are presented with two choices: to surrender your peace to the world around you, or to claim your joy with the authority of a mind that refuses to be defeated by circumstance. Understand this: no experience, no person, no setback holds the power to decide how you feel unless you hand them the key. Your mind is the master, and your emotions its obedient servants. When you learn to command your thoughts, you learn to command your happiness. There will be obstacles. There always are. But each obstacle is a reminder of the strength that lies within you. Every challenge is an invitation to rise above the noise of fear, doubt, and negativity. Happiness is not the absence of problems. It is the triumph of a determined spirit over every attempt to break it. Decide today that you will no longer wait for perfect conditions to feel joy. Decide that you will greet each morning with gratitude, each moment with purpose, and each challenge with the unshakable belief that nothing can disturb your peace without your permission. For the one who controls their mind controls their life. And the one who controls their life can be happy every single day, no matter what. Happiness is a deliberate choice, not a reaction to circumstances. This idea may seem simple, but its power is life-changing. Most people go through their days believing that their emotions are dictated by what happens around them, by unexpected news, by the way others treat them, by success or failure, or by whether life chooses to be generous or difficult at any given moment. But the truth is that circumstances only present you with events. They do not control the meaning you attach to those events. The meaning comes from you. And because meaning comes from you, your emotional response is a choice, one that you can shape, strengthen, and ultimately master. When you wake up in the morning, before you speak a word or take a step, you possess the greatest freedom a human being can hold. The freedom to decide the mental state you will carry into the day. You can choose to see the day as a burden, or you can choose to see it as a new opportunity. You can choose to focus on what is missing, or you can choose to appreciate what is already present. You can choose to react out of habit, or you can choose to respond with intention. That simple decision, the one you make in the quiet of your mind, is where happiness begins. There is a common belief that happiness arrives when everything in life finally falls into place. But waiting for perfect conditions is like waiting for a ship that never plans to sail. Life is never perfect, and it never will be. There will always be challenges, delays, misunderstandings, disappointments, and moments that test your patience. But happiness was never meant to be the reward for a problem-free life. It was meant to be the result of inner discipline, the discipline to direct your mind rather than allowing the world to direct it for you. When you decide that happiness is your responsibility, you stop blaming circumstances for how you feel. You stop giving your power away to events and people who have no rightful claim over your inner world. You stop saying, "I'll be happy when," and begin saying, "I choose to be happy now." This shift is not about pretending that pain does not exist or ignoring difficulties. It is about recognizing that no external force holds absolute authority over your emotional state. You may not control everything that happens, but you always control the perspective you bring to what happens. Choosing happiness every day requires awareness. It demands that you notice the thoughts you allow into your mind. It requires understanding that the mind tends to drift toward old patterns of negativity, fear, worry, and doubt. Unless you guide it with intention, you must watch your thoughts the way a guard watches the entrance to a fortress, allowing in only those ideas that strengthen your spirit and refusing entrance to those that weaken it. You must recognize when your mind slips into complaints, criticism, comparison, or self-pity, and gently but firmly guide it back to clarity, gratitude, and confidence. This choice becomes easier with practice. At first, it may feel unnatural because many people have spent years letting external events dictate their emotions. But the more often you interrupt those automatic reactions, the more power you reclaim. You begin to develop emotional independence, the ability to stay grounded even when circumstances try to pull you off balance. You begin to experience moments where something goes wrong, yet your inner peace remains untouched. You begin to notice that happiness has less to do with what happens and more to do with the strength of your response. There are days when making this choice will feel effortless, and days when it will feel almost impossible. But even on the difficult days, the act of choosing is what strengthens you. It builds resilience, and resilience becomes the foundation for consistent happiness. Happiness is not a single emotional state, but a repeated decision, one that grows stronger each time you make it. And when you make it enough times, it becomes part of who you are instead of something you chase. When you fully embrace this truth, you begin to see that happiness is not dependent on luck, circumstances, or the behavior of others. It is dependent on the principles you live by and the thoughts you cultivate. It is dependent on recognizing your own power and using it, not occasionally, but every day. Happiness becomes a habit, a discipline, and ultimately a way of life, a choice renewed each morning and protected through every moment that follows. Your thoughts shape your emotional world. Control them or be controlled by them. This truth lies at the center of every human experience. Long before an emotion appears, before a reaction surfaces, before a word is spoken, there is a thought. That thought may be small, quiet, or so familiar that you barely notice it, but it is powerful enough to create the emotional tone of your entire day. What most people never realize is that their emotions are not random. They are constructed by the thoughts they allow to take root in their minds. A single idea can lift your spirit, strengthen your determination, calm your fears, or ignite your joy. But the same mind, left unchecked, can just as easily plant seeds of doubt, worry, resentment, jealousy, or defeat. The difference between a peaceful mind and a troubled one often starts with a single moment of awareness. When you pay attention to your thoughts, you begin to understand how quickly they can pull you into emotional storms or raise you into clarity. A small worry can grow into anxiety if you keep feeding it. A passing irritation can turn into anger if you continue rehearsing it. A memory of being wrong can turn into bitterness if you revisit it long enough. Every emotion you experience is reinforced by the thoughts you entertain. If you repeat a thought often enough, it becomes a belief. And once it becomes a belief, it shapes your entire perception of life. Many people allow their minds to drift wherever habit takes them, unaware that they are giving their emotional power away. The mind without direction tends to wander toward fear or negativity because these are the easiest paths for the brain to take. It is far easier to imagine what could go wrong than what could go right. Easier to replay past mistakes than to envision new successes. Easier to dwell on frustrations than to practice gratitude. And unless you take control of your thoughts, you will find yourself feeling emotions that were never consciously chosen, only inherited from old patterns of thinking. To control your thoughts does not mean forcing yourself into unrealistic positive thinking or pretending challenges do not exist. It means learning to guide your mind the same way a navigator guides a ship through changing waters. A navigator does not deny the existence of storms. He simply refuses to let the storms dictate the direction of his journey. In the same way, you must acknowledge your fears without surrendering to them, notice negative thoughts without bowing to their influence, and redirect your mind toward ideas that serve your growth rather than undermine it. This process begins with observation. When you feel an emotion rise, whether frustration, sadness, anxiety, or anger, pause long enough to ask yourself what thought created it. You may discover that the emotion came from an assumption, a memory, an exaggeration, or a prediction about the future that has no real evidence behind it. Once you see the root, you gain the power to change it. You can replace a fearful thought with a factual one, a self-defeating thought with a confident one, a resentful thought with a compassionate one. Slowly, your emotional world begins to shift. Every great achievement, every moment of courage, every step toward personal success begins with the mind. If you allow your thoughts to run wild with fear, you will live cautiously. If you let your mind dwell on failure, you will hesitate to take risks. If you allow old wounds to dominate your thinking, your future will be shaped by your past. But when you consciously fill your mind with ideas of purpose, strength, gratitude, and possibility, your emotions begin to align with those thoughts. You feel more hopeful, more resilient, more determined, more alive. There will be days when the mind resists discipline, days when negative thoughts appear faster than you can catch them. That is normal. The goal is not perfection. The goal is to build habits. The more often you challenge destructive thinking, the weaker it becomes. The more you reinforce empowering thoughts, the stronger they grow. Over time, your emotional world becomes calmer, clearer, and more balanced, not because life changed, but because your thoughts did. When you understand that your mind is not a passive observer, but the architect of your emotional experience, you begin to reclaim control over your life. You stop reacting automatically and start responding intentionally. You stop feeling overwhelmed by life's unpredictability and start feeling grounded in your own inner strength. You realize that the world does not determine how you feel, your thoughts do. And when you learn to guide your thoughts, you learn to guide your emotions, your actions, and ultimately your entire destiny. Adversity is an opportunity to strengthen your inner power. It may not feel that way when you're standing in the middle of a setback, when life hits you with something you didn't expect, or when you feel the weight of a challenge pressing heavily on your shoulders. But if you look closely at every person who has grown stronger, wiser, or more resilient, you will find that their strength was not built in comfort. It was built in difficulty. Hard moments are not meant to crush you. They are meant to carve you into someone capable of more than you ever imagined. Every struggle contains within it a lesson, a new capacity, or a hidden strength that would have remained dormant without the pressure of adversity. There are times when problems appear suddenly, disrupting your plans, your peace, or your sense of direction. In those moments, it is easy to believe that something is being taken from you. But what if instead something is being offered to you? What if adversity is not a punishment but a preparation? What if every difficulty you endure is shaping you for responsibilities, opportunities, or achievements that require a deeper level of resilience than you currently possess? It is often through the most uncomfortable experiences that the mind learns discipline, the heart learns patience, and the spirit learns endurance. When life presents you with adversity, you have a choice. You can see yourself as a victim of circumstances, or you can see yourself as a student of experience. The victim asks, "Why is this happening to me?" The student asks, "What can I learn from this?" This shift in perspective changes everything. It transforms adversity from a barrier into a doorway. It transforms hardship into a teacher. It transforms pain into wisdom. And once you begin to look at challenges through this lens, you no longer fear them, because you understand that they are shaping your character in ways that comfort never could. Some of the strongest qualities a person can develop: courage, patience, discipline, clarity, humility, and mental toughness do not grow in moments of ease. They grow when you are pushed beyond your usual limits. They grow when you have no choice but to dig deeper than before. They grow when you are forced to rely on the strength within you rather than the circumstances around you. You may not recognize your own growth while you are going through the hardship, but when you look back later, you will see how each struggle taught you something essential, something that contributed to the person you have become. Adversity also has a way of revealing what truly matters. When everything is going well, it's easy to get distracted by minor issues, unnecessary worries, or small disappointments. But when life becomes difficult, your priorities become clearer. You begin to see what deserves your energy and what does not. You start to understand who supports you and who does not. You realize which habits strengthen you and which habits drain you. In this way, adversity acts as a filter, stripping away the unnecessary and leaving you with what is real, valuable, and meaningful. Another hidden gift of adversity is that it teaches self-reliance. When you face challenges, you discover that you have more strength, more courage, and more resilience than you ever gave yourself credit for. You learn to trust your abilities. You learn to trust your instincts. You learn to trust the quiet voice inside you that says, "Keep going." Many people never recognize their own power because they have never been placed in a situation that required them to use it. When adversity forces you to confront your fears, solve your own problems, or push through uncertainty, it awakens parts of you that would have otherwise remained unnoticed. Even pain, as unwelcome as it is, can become a source of transformation. Pain pushes you to grow, to heal, to let go of what no longer serves you, and to build a stronger foundation for the future. Pain sharpens your awareness and deepens your empathy. It teaches you endurance and reminds you that you can survive far more than you thought. And with each trial you overcome, you become a little braver, a little wiser, and a little more prepared for the next chapter of your life. Adversity shapes your character far more than comfort ever will. It strengthens your spirit, expands your vision, and forces you to rise above limitations you once accepted as permanent. It may challenge you, frustrate you, or even break you down for a moment, but it also builds you back up with greater resilience, clarity, and inner power. And as you move through each difficulty, you begin to realize that adversity is not the end of your strength. It is the beginning of it. Daily happiness requires discipline, gratitude, purpose, and mental direction. Most people imagine happiness as a feeling that arrives on its own, like a sudden ray of sunshine breaking through the clouds. They wait for it, hope for it, and sometimes even chase it, believing that one day it will appear if the conditions of their life finally line up. But happiness is not a visitor that knocks politely on your door. It is something you build, shape, and protect through deliberate habits. Without discipline, the mind wanders, emotions fluctuate, and life feels like a series of unpredictable waves. With discipline, however, happiness becomes steady, grounded, and deeply rooted because it is supported by the practices you choose day after day. Gratitude is one of those practices, and it is far more powerful than most people realize. Gratitude has the ability to shift your focus from what is missing to what is present, from what went wrong to what is still right, from the noise of life's frustrations to the quiet blessings that surround you. When you practice gratitude daily, your mind becomes trained to notice the good, even in difficult circumstances. You begin to discover that happiness often hides in small, ordinary moments: a peaceful morning, a kind gesture, a simple accomplishment, a meaningful conversation, a moment of silence. Gratitude doesn't remove your problems, but it protects your spirit from being overwhelmed by them. It reminds you that even in the midst of struggle, you still have something to stand on. Purpose is another essential ingredient in the discipline of daily happiness. When you wake up knowing what you are working toward, even if it is something small, your day gains a sense of direction. Purpose gives you energy, clarity, and motivation. It transforms ordinary tasks into meaningful steps and makes challenges feel more worthwhile. Without purpose, the mind becomes restless, easily discouraged, and vulnerable to negativity. But with purpose, even obstacles feel like part of a greater journey. You become more patient, more resilient, and more willing to push through difficulties because you understand that your efforts are leading somewhere. Happiness grows naturally when you feel you are moving forward, contributing, improving, or becoming a better version of yourself. Mental direction is equally important because the mind is constantly bombarded by influences that can pull it off course. If you do not guide your mind each day, the world will guide it for you toward fear, comparison, distraction, or negativity. Mental direction is the act of choosing what to focus on, what to believe, and what to reject. It involves deciding which thoughts deserve your attention and which thoughts must be dismissed. It is the discipline of noticing when your mind drifts into worry or doubt and gently steering it back to clarity and strength. This discipline is not always easy, but it becomes easier with practice. The more you direct your mind, the more predictable your emotional state becomes because you are no longer at the mercy of every passing thought. Daily happiness is built in the quiet moments when no one is watching. It is built when you choose gratitude in the morning instead of complaining. It is built when you remind yourself of your purpose instead of drifting aimlessly. It is built when you take control of your thoughts instead of letting them run wild. These small, repeated acts of discipline shape your emotional world in ways that become visible over time. You begin to notice that you are less affected by setbacks, less disturbed by negativity, and less dependent on external events to determine how you feel. You become more centered, more confident, and more peaceful. This discipline does not eliminate challenges, but it equips you to face them with a stronger mindset. It does not guarantee that every day will be easy, but it ensures that your happiness is no longer fragile, no longer easily broken by circumstances. Your happiness becomes something you create, protect, and renew each day through your habits, your perspective, and your commitment to maintaining a healthy inner life. The more consistent you are in this discipline, the more natural it becomes, until eventually it feels less like effort and more like a way of being. And when that happens, happiness becomes less of a pursuit and more of a daily experience, steady,